cornering. Oh. Thank you for all the support, everybody. This is going to get demonetized now.
Shit. Tangina sa
Alright.
tipo. Tangina, sir. Sabag ano? Jen, pop. Nakikita mo to? Umigot siya eh. Tangina. Walang signal eh.
Galaw mo muna yung bro.
Safety mo, okay?
Ayan mo na lang sa
Buti nakasot siya. Umigot ka, sir.
Umano po kayo dito kasi kumain po kayo ng ano ko. Hindi na ako makaiwas kasi ano din dyan.
Hindi ko alam. Nagsalubong kayo sa gitna oh.
Dito po.
Okay.
Pag-overtake mo.
He's not all there.
Wala kang bali. Sir Jimbo?
Wala ba?
May tama ka dito.
Mayroon ba? Wala. Malaki yung cut mo sa ano, doon lang baka na. Dito?
Oo.
Ay mo okay ba?
So anyways, what we have here is going to be, you know, two riders just having a good time. And then we're going to have somebody that's going to pass us. It's not going to be the best thing, obviously. They're passing on a blind turn. So ego might have played a role into this. Maybe whatever it is played a role into this. Maybe something that gave him the ego. Could have been intoxicating substances. Who knows? We don't know what's going on in that. All we do know is what we see, and this is what we see. Let's go ahead and go into it. All right, so take a look at his body position. I'll go a little bit slower, 25% speed. All right, so he's about to get his knee down. He's ready to go. He's leaned in. He's going to make the turn. We can't see around the hedge. He might be seeing a little bit around the hedge. And then as soon as he sees that car, where'd his knee go? His knee disappeared. So the car took his concentration. He target fixated on the car. That's the only reason why his knee went back in, okay, and why he straightened up. Okay, why else would he do that? There was nothing in his path of travel. There was nothing there. And there's the impact, okay? So the impact is very severe, okay? It's going to be very hard and fast into the front of this vehicle. When I see this, so what is the mechanism? What is the thing that's going to really cause the damage and the pain and all these different things? So what's happening is that front end damage is going to be a lot different than angular. Instead of an angular incident where you get, you know, hit and then kind of it's all on one side, with the frontal impact, what you're going to have is your hands are going to go forward first. Let's go ahead and start like with little basics. So the hands will go forward. Okay, well, you have that skier's thumb, so you have a good chance of snapping your thumb or snapping the ligaments, tearing some of the cartilage, maybe breaking some bone. Boom, right there. That's the first thing, okay? And then when you start to go further in, you obviously get the impacts because you put your hand on the windshield or whatever it is. So now you have more impacts, you know, traveling up your body, and typically whatever's the weakest is going to snap, and that's typically the AC joint on that situation. And the next thing that you start to really think about is now, since we're going forward, our hips are going forward. Well, we're sitting on a seat, and what's in front of the seat? It's the gas tank and the handlebars. So when we start to slide forward, guess what? Our genitalia is going to get hit on the gas tank. So hopefully nothing tears, nothing rip open, but that could possibly be it. So you can also have an open book fracture. So in the front, in your pelvis, you're going to have your pubic bone, and then you're going to have the front of your hips or your pelvis, that big thing right there, you know, holding everything in. Well, anyways, you hit the front and then it could snap open. I've talked about it quite a bit. You know, women get that when they give birth because it opens up. So you're going to get hit right there, possibly snap that open. And the reason why I know that is because it did happen to my dear friend and brother, and I know what it looks like. So then you also have a possibility with those handlebars hitting your hips and then hitting your femurs, and you can have bilateral femur fractures. You have your head hitting the windshield, so now you have concussion, TBI, penetrating trauma, depending on if you have a helmet or not. He does have a helmet here, so hopefully it absorbed a lot of the impact, but that doesn't stop your brain from jostling around inside the skull. Okay, remember your brain is suspended in cerebral spinal fluid, so it's like very clear fluid that only is in the brain. So if it leaks anywhere else, then you know there's a problem. But what's going to happen there is your brain's going to slosh around, and when it sloshes, it doesn't just kind of slosh and is suspended the whole time. It hits sides of the inside of your skull, and that's where you get the contusions or the bleeding and the bruising and everything. And that's what happens when you get a traumatic brain injury. You start to have, depending if there's blood vessels torn or different things here and there, you could have bleeding on the brain, depending on where the bleeding is, subdural hematomas and stuff like that, subarachnoid. There's a lot that goes into it. I'm trying to explain as much as I can because I want you guys to understand how important this is. But if there's no bleeding involved, you can still have it shut off. It's just like hitting the power button on your computer. Boom, shuts it off. End of story. And then it has to reboot. Okay, so that's pretty much what we have to do. Thank you guys. You guys are amazing. So let's take a look a little bit further. And that was just the initial impact. Now we got the second impact. There's the second impact, and then we can have it all over again. Okay, you can have it. This could be maybe the part where he snaps his spine. Shit. So everyone's gonna have that shit moment, and that's fine. Have it inside your head, but then start going through the process of what your training tells you to do. Okay, this is the moment where you have somebody right there doing their assessment. If you have a comm system, you can start talking to the person that's talking to the patient through the comm system, and you can kind of hear, what they're saying. So let's say this person is asking questions. Hey, you okay? What's going on? What's going on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? And they're not saying anything back. And this is where you're getting your med kit out of your own bike, and you're starting to get there, and you can start taking over once you get there. This is a very scary situation. It's like, okay, we got two patients. We really have two patients. So we have the person on the ground, which is the most life-threatening looking patient, but then we also have the patient that's in the car. You have to think like that, okay? You have to think that you have two patients. Now, the one that's walking wounded, the woman that was in the car, has a lot of safety features. She's got the seatbelt, airbags, crumple zones, all these different things to protect her. So you notice they were both in the same crash. One person is doing better than the other. Okay, that's the problem with motorcycles, is that we don't have all those protections, but she is still a patient. But the main concern is going to be him. But if there's more than, let's say, 5 of you on scene that have medical training and only really need 3 people with him, one person can at least give some medical attention to the driver. Okay, so just think of it like that. So he's unconscious. You hear the snoring. Let's go back just a little bit. You're going to hear the snoring. So he's unconscious and he's snoring. Yeah, so that's more of an unconscious groaning. But you'll definitely hear agonal breathing with somebody that's oof. And when you hear that, it's a no bueno situation. This one, it's more of the, exactly, Scarlett. It's more of the unconscious groaning. But that's not a good thing, because when you hear that, you're like, oh, okay, well, he's breathing. Yeah, he is now. He is now. He is unconscious. Okay, so he did go lights out. And when you saw the mechanism, when you saw the crash and the trauma involved, this is a very acute unconscious. It's not like a syncopal episode of like low blood pressure. All of a sudden, it's like, whoopsie, I'm dehydrated. No, this one is you were conscious until you impacted. Now you're not. So there was a traumatic experience with the brain. There was a traumatic experience with everything that happened. So you need to be very careful. That you need to understand, okay, this is a very severe situation. Then, like, it's obvious with the crash involved, but there's some people that get up and walk away after these, and he's not. And the fact that he's groaning and not aware, remember the AVPU, alert, verbal, painful, unresponsive, he is unresponsive. He is completely unresponsive. His GCS is very low. Okay, so we have to be very careful when it comes to this, and we have to understand, okay, we might have to be supporting his life system. So we might have at some point support him with his breathing. We might at some point have to support him with his blood circulation through CPR. So that is the process you start to go down when you hear something like that. So at this point, you take your helmet off, you get your gear ready, you get those trauma shears out, you get ready to cut at least, the jacket, or open the zipper so you can get to his bare chest so you can start doing CPR if you had to. You start going through this process.
Tangina, sir.
So now, somebody that's in a command situation, so an incident command system that was kind of developed after 9/11, to where you have one person in charge directing, everybody delegating, and that's typically the person with the most knowledge. So in this situation, I have another concern: my safety, my friend's safety, whoever these people are to me, safety, especially the patient's safety, because they can't jump out of the way of a car that's coming down this path. He's going to be on the ground. So my other concern is going to be anybody coming around this corner at a high speed, crashing into us while I'm trying to render aid. Okay, remember, it's not my emergency that he crashed. It is his emergency. I do not want to be a part of the emergency as a patient if somebody hauls ass around here and hits me, because who's going to take care of me if I get hurt? I'm trying to take care of him. I can't take care of him if I get hurt. So my other concern now, when I have this full scope of what I need to do, and this comes with training and experience, is that you're going to have somebody direct traffic. Okay, so your safety is just as important as helping him out, if not more. It is more, because it's his emergency. He did that. It wasn't me. I didn't crash. He did. I don't want to get hurt. So he's starting to come to. So he's still not all there. This is the system booting up. You still kind of have to wait a little bit. Maybe the Wi-Fi isn't connected, so he's not getting all the information there. Maybe, you know, there's just a bunch of different things. And the thing is, he's not going to be all there yet. So he could become combative. He could become something else. We don't know yet. Honestly, we don't even know who he is. So we need to start only focusing on his life support, okay, his airway, breathing, circulation. That's what we should be concerned about.
Umikot siya eh. Tangina.
Yeah, he's buffering, yeah.
Walang signal eh.
So we don't know how this happened, but it's obvious that the helmet came off. We don't know who took it off, but it came off and he never changed positions. The only time you take somebody's helmet off is if they are not breathing and it's a full face. So if they are not breathing and have a 3/4 or half helmet, you leave it on because you have access to the airway.
Safety mo.
Starting to come to.
Buti nakasot siya. Umikot.
All right, so some people in this situation would be like, well, what do you do to keep his cervical spine in line? What you can do is do a log roll, and you'll learn this in the accident scene management class, where you're going to get with multiple people, somebody's going to have the head, and you're going to roll him onto his back in one fluid motion. That way you're not compromising anything. If you want.
Buti nakasot siya.
This right here is not something I would do. I'd make sure that they stayed laying down.
Umikot ka, sir.
Umano po kayo dito kasi kumain po kayo ng ano ko hindi na ako makaiwas kasi ano din dyan.
So I don't know what they're saying, and here's the thing: I've had many patients where you don't know what they're saying. You know, I don't know Spanish, and we'd have Spanish-speaking only patients, and the main concern there is, well, I can't speak to them, so I have to go based off of what I know and what I see and what I witness, unless I get a translator there. So when I see something like this, I do see that he has a contusion to his right eyebrow. And it's like, well, he was wearing a helmet, right? Well, yeah, he was wearing a helmet, but there is such a massive impact, it's going to cause a contusion and maybe a tearing of the skin. So if that force was transmitted into his orbit bone right there, you have to realize it was transmitted into his brain too. And when I see that, and he's just kind of like, you know, like a little loopy, smiling, kind of looking around, you know, doing this, that means there's confusion. He's like, okay, yeah, wait, I did that? What'd I do? Like that right there is when you start to realize, oh, it's rebooting.
Hindi ko alam. Nagsalubong kayo sa gitna, oh. Okay.
Pag-overtake mo.
Told you, man.
Wala kang
Somebody that's in a crash, somebody that's hurt, somebody that that is just hanging out with friends doesn't look like this. And typically it's somebody freaking out. We've seen a bunch of these crashes. They're freaking out about their bike. They're freaking out about the car. They're freaking out about what happened. They're concerned about certain things. And if this guy's normal mentation is like happy-go-lucky, I talk. I know what words to say. I know what this and this. he's not doing that. So you start to realize what people typically say and do after a crash, or typically say and do as a normal, as what they are. Like if this was your friend and it's like, this is not how David talks. It's, you know, he's not acting right. It's because there's something going on in the brain. It's not all there yet. Okay. It might still all be there, but the thing is the neurons aren't shooting like they should be until the contusion, until the TBI is resolved.
Bale, Sir Jimbo.
Wala pa.
May tama ka dito.
Meron ba? Wala.
Malaki yung cut mo sa ano, doon lang baka na.
Dito?
Oo.
Ay, okay ba?
But take a look at that. That right there is a massive impact. You have a lot of problems when it comes to that. A lot of problems when it comes to that.